Hey, everybody, welcome back to Pro AV. Today, I am your host, Ben Thomas. You know, if you step back and look at one of the things that's changed in a post-pandemic world, especially when it comes to AV and technology, is a renewed focus on the end user experience. And typically, when you think of AV as a whole, it tends to be a little bit more about the commercial side, right? Focusing on end user experience in conference rooms and in workplace settings. But one of the things that we saw at CEDIA this year is a renewed focus on the end user experience on the residential side. So I wanted to bring on somebody today that could talk really specifically to that, and somebody who knows quite a bit about the industry and has quite a bit of credibility in the space. That's Gene LaNois over at Google Nest. Gene, thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
You know, Gene, a show like CEDIA is very important to what I'll call the traditional AV market, which is that commercial side, if nothing else for just information gathering, right? Yeah. You're seeing a little bit of this resurgence of the resi-commercial market, and you know that kind of rearing its head a little bit. But I think what the residential market, and you guys specifically do a fantastic job of, is focusing a little bit more on that interactive end user experience side, right? And traditionally on the commercial side, because of kind of maybe some of those gateways and integrated channels that we've set up, we're a little bit more detached from that. But especially, you know, as you look at the show and you look at some of the trends like integrating into wellness, making the experience of the end user really seamless, especially as you look about, or you talk about people who are digital natives, you know, it's interesting to see. And, you know, especially as somebody who has their pulse on the residential side, you know, talk to us a little bit about how important that end user market specifically is on the residential side.
It's what our business has been and continues to be built on. You know, the great part about Google is that it is a ton of focus on what does the customer, and when Google talks about customers in the hardware space, they mostly are looking through a lens of the end user. My business very much focused on professional contractors, integrators, pros, using our products for that end user. But the experience that we design, it ultimately is, how does this feel? How does it create the helpful home? How does it, is it easy to use? The app experience, the hardware has got to be beautiful, but the app experience is really what I think most people start to judge your product off of once it's installed.
Well, you know, you talk about that end user experience a little bit, and I think it's important to kind of lay the groundwork. Obviously, there's, as it is in traditional commercial AV, there's different tiers, right? There's more of the DIY. Sure. I don't necessarily want to call them the hobbyists, but typically the people who will buy something off Amazon, plug it in, and they expect it to work. And then there's kind of that market that is the do-it-for-me market, right? There's that kind of middle of the road, and then you're talking your enterprise installations with, you know, builders, hyper luxury homes, things like that. But one of the places I want to focus today is kind of that do-it-for-me market. You know, you see it in a number of different industries, right? Whether it's food delivery, where you're paying $5 for a smoothie and you're paying $15 to deliver it. People now have actually started conforming to the idea that somebody else, they're willing to pay people to do things for them at scale. So, you know, when you talk about that do-it-for-me market, talk about some of that opportunity specifically, especially from an integrator and pro side perspective.
So it's a key part of the business, and I think there's a few demonstrations of this. And as you asked me that question, I've got so many things running through my mind on the answers I want to give you, because I think there's multiple pieces that lay into this. Some examples where Google sees this is, one, my channel of business. It's all about Nest Pro. And so it is about enabling literally thousands of contractors to be able to do that work for people across various trades. You look at our partnership with a company like Dish and OnTech, where we're providing transparent pricing for getting the product installed in any zip code in the United States. And then you look at our recent partnership where we literally bought into a company like ADT. This is where we're working to make sure that people are getting connected to professionals that can help them get those products and the integrations in their home. But really what has led to all of those pieces of the business, whether it's our Nest Pro network, the collaboration with a company like Dish and OnTech, and the buy-in into a company like ADT, is you look back on smart home and the evolution that we've watched and what we continue to watch it go through is that you had early adopters, people that were, grabbing onto the products, doing it themselves, maybe a little techie. But then there is this massive audience. You talked about, the convenience factor of what we're willing to pay. But as soon as you get to products that may require a ladder, a drill, a cord being run in a really clean way, you are now into what I think is the mass market. I think that is what we're really starting to hit on as an industry. So I think we'll continue to see that to grow. I think it's a massive opportunity for integrators, any professional out there. So I'm very bullish on, the market segment that we're really starting to enter into.
Well, let's stick on that pro side for a minute. One of the things that even I'm learning more and more about is the residential channel, especially the buying channel, looks a lot different than the commercial AV side. A lot of that is driven regularly because of the fact that the end user many times is the decision maker, right? They're the person who literally is controlling the purse strings. And, when you look at more the commercial side, okay, there's allotted budgets, things like that. And, that kind of becomes a challenge, especially as you look at an integrator where you're having to maybe give some tiered approaches and tiered designs and things like that. As maybe somebody who is coming from that more traditional commercial side, what are some of the things that they have to be mindful of, especially as that end user tends to kind of be that person who makes the decisions?
I think the end user makes the decision on the budget that they want to spend. But I would say that what do the integrators, the pros, the installers, what do they need to be mindful of? I think the biggest thing is that people sort of at this point in the evolution of the business, they sort of know what they want, but they don't know everything that exists. And I think the opportunity is to find out what they're trying to solve, provide that solution, but then open up the portfolio a little bit. Let them know that once they get that one solution, maybe it's a doorbell, maybe it's a smart thermostat, maybe it's a camera, all the other things that they can do either through third-party integrations or the other products that fall under that same app or manufacturer. Don't just, if somebody says, hey, I want to see who's at my door, don't just offer the video doorbell that can cast to your television, that can show up on a hub device or a display. And so I think the opportunity is really about saying, by the way, once you have this, here's what else you can do. That's the biggest message I would pass on, that the consumer, they are the decision maker. They do decide on the budget, but they may not know everything that's available, and they may be willing to push that budget for the sake of convenience, like you described.
Well, totally agree. And kind of focusing a little bit more on that hardware side that you brought up, especially in residential markets, there's kind of this hodgepodge of, I got this deal on Prime Day and have these devices and this over here. And then the integrator comes in and has to kind of make it work and find a way to kind of make those devices collaborate. From a product manufacturer's standpoint, especially, on the Google Nest side, how important is that interoperability and accessibility, specifically when it comes to the product design process?
It was a very important factor. It continues to go up on the scale. And I wasn't able to attend CEDIA because of the Hurricane Ian, but I was really excited to be there because we were putting on a conversation around Matter. And Matter, for those who are listening and may not know, Matter is a protocol that's being used across Google, Amazon, Apple, Samsung. And so interoperability, integrations, that investment is a key focus. We're not going to make everything, and nor do we want to make everything. So I think that, the only way to scale the platform and the ecosystem is by making sure that you've got great integrations, great communication, and enable those products to operate pretty seamlessly, and let the ecosystem do its work. As I talk to you on my left-hand side, I've got a home hub. I've got, and this isn't a bragging thing, but I've got like 60 plus devices, that run off of that hub. But it's
you're the Nest R&D department is what you are.
I test a few things, but the point being is that there's a lot of third-party products that I'm running off of that as well. Whether it's lighting, the fan that's churning above me right now, shades in the home. These are all, it all happens because of these integrations.
It's so interesting too, because we touched on it a little bit earlier in the show. The end user profile is just so wildly different, right? And especially coming at it from the lens of the commercial side, who everything's about scale, everything's about repeatability. That doesn't always necessarily happen in the resi side, but let's kind of focus on that, what I'll call the ultra enterprise side, right? The hyper luxury, or maybe working with those builders, especially in the last few years, especially down here in Texas, where buying a new home is virtually impossible or ridiculously expensive these days. Builders are having to find ways to create value for their buyers, right? And most of the time that's not through creating more space with lumber and work and labor. They're actually integrating smart home systems, whether it's energy automation, things like home theaters, outdoor integrations, things like that. Talk about that market a little bit from a business development standpoint. How important is that market, especially from growth opportunities for our commercial integrators?
I think it's massive for a few of the reasons that you pointed out, as well as maybe a couple more. I think home builders, especially in this market, now what they're facing is they may need to differentiate, right? With the 3,000 square foot in a great school district over here, and the 3,000 square foot home in the same school district over there, as well as existing home, right? New home buyers or new home sellers and builders face the competition of existing homes. But I think the other thing that is pressuring that market and creating opportunity is that customer expectation. So if I move into a new home, quite frankly, I am expecting a little bit of the latest, greatest. I am expecting energy savings. I am expecting the ability to understand what's going on or what's happening inside my home, whether or not that is from something of call it a solar project, to my appliances in the kitchen, to the ability to just stream entertainment from my family. There are just, I think, basic expectations that keep on rising. So the pressure is on the home builders and the markets. And so it is a great opportunity. And while that exists, there is also still a learning curve happening in the industry, where, I've seen it a million times where, you'll look at a job and it is a whole bunch of apps that are installed for products in a home, versus figuring out how to integrate that through one app, one voice assistant, and enable that to be very simple and easy to operate and not a burden to a homeowner.
Well, Gene, you talked about some of your expectations, and I'll give you the crystal ball here and let you rub it. What are some of the things in the next 5-10 years that you're anticipating? Maybe some of the things that you're seeing and expecting end users to be demanding in the next 5-10 years.
I think energy is probably going to be one of those big expectation places. And you're coming out of the state of Texas, which is a huge
a soft spot for us.
It's a big energy market down there. But the ability to manage the energy in your home, understand what is happening, and the ability to control it, I think will be one of those really big growth spots. You look at whether or not it's a retrofit type of scenario on an electrical panel or a breaker system, or just the smart appliances, communication with utility markets, demand response. I believe the energy usage is going to be a key category within the next 5 years, already more than what you're starting to see today.
Well, you heard it here first, and I'm sure you've probably actually said that about 10,000 times at this point. But hey, I'll give you the last word here. It's time for the shameless plug. I mean, you guys are doing some incredible work over on the Google Nest side. Obviously, when you have somebody like Google giving you the go-ahead on some of these projects, it's easy to try some new things. But, what excites you most about the work that's happening over there right now?
Right now, we were super excited for CEDIA just to get a chance to get face-to-face with a lot of integrators. But the things that we were talking about we had a ton of demand for multi-power solutions in our cameras. We've got great cameras, great AI, ability to identify people, packages, etc., and that's really convenient. But what integrators wanted was more power solutions. We were always just a wired solution. And so introducing battery power, PoE power, line voltage power, low voltage power. And we just introduced our new Wi-Fi 6 mesh Wi-Fi. We just rolled out our new wired doorbell. The key thing for us is all of that rolls under one app, the Google Home app. So whether or not you're an integrator and you just want, these products to provision through the one app and make it really seamless and easy for the consumer, your customer, or it is that customer end user experience where you aren't trying to get to one app for your Wi-Fi, one app for your thermostat, one app for your assistant. All of it rolls under the one app. So to be entering CEDIA with multi-power solutions and the largest smart home portfolio under one app, that's what we were really excited about getting across to everyone.
Well, Gene, it sounds like next time we have you on, we got to talk a little bit more about power in the home. PoE at scale in homes is something I think that people are really undervaluing right now, especially when it comes to network power and things like cameras and lights and shades, things like that as well. But hey, we'll get you back on next time, Gene. Thanks so much for hopping on Pro AV today.
Yeah, Ben, thanks for having me on.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to watch next time.